All right, let's get started. I don't know if Leah's a hero. I think we've well established that by a comedy of errors, she's a bit of a murderer, which is not great. But yes, we want her to be a hero. I think she has the potential to be a hero. But obviously, welcome to the stream. So today's pretty interesting because it's Thursday, so we're doing the solo RPG because now we've officially switched over from Sundays to Thursdays because my D&D game that was on Thursdays is now on Sundays. So we're swapping things around. So yeah, and that's what we're doing here. So episode 12, session 12. Wow, it's hard to believe I've gotten that far in it so far. But it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see what happens. And this is going to be a pretty pivotal episode, or at least that's my thought, since we're in the conservatory at night skulking around. Yeah, everyone is the hero in their own story, even the bad guys. Right, we all want to be the main characters in our own stories. So I thought before we get too far into it, I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping, and then I guess it's been about 2 weeks since we've done one of these episodes, just because I had other things going on during those time slots. And I didn't want to screw things up by doing it on Sunday and then getting people confused about the date when we were going to do the solo RPG. But we do have a few housekeeping items that I want to do before we jump in. So we'll do a housekeeping, and then I'll do a recap of the last session, because we had quite a bit happen in the last session. So I want to kind of go over that so we're all on the same page. But first, some of the housekeeping. So I forgot in the last episode that the magic item, the magic ring that the cult asked us to get was something that they wanted to destroy, and was a profane object and not a sacred object. Somewhere along those lines, when I was trying to figure out what was going on, I inverted that into making it an important religious item for the cult instead of a profane one that they wanted destroyed. Still, I think this works better. We talked about that I needed to find out a little bit more about the cult, and I did some of that off camera. I did some rolls using the Pantheon and sort of religion building stuff that I have over on the website. Of course, you can see it down below. It's in the world building section at the top of the site of redragonfeed.com, where we've been doing a long sort of world building process of top-down world building for a custom world, and giving you plenty of information. So if you guys want to build those sorts of things yourself, you can check that out. And so I went in there, and then I did some things for that, and I found out that ring of swimming was going to make more sense as a sacred object anyways than a profane one. So we're going to keep it how it is, especially because it was related. I felt like it was very strongly related to how Leah saw them bathing, doing sort of ritualistic bathing in Split Valley Oasis, in the Oasis waters. And so it just makes more sense in my mind, and I think it's going to play out a lot better with it being a sacred object. The second is that I forgot, as it relates to the first point, I forgot that the sort of final showdown with the corrupted water myrmidon also happened in a sort of a weird sacred ritual cave, like that had some sort of religious significance. So I'm wondering if that's related to the cult too, and I didn't put those things together. And so what I really want to do is to start us off right fast. I'm going to actually go ahead and make a roll. Let me move this stuff over here, because that's what I want to do. So I want to go ahead and make a roll, and I'll let you guys see that too. So let me swap things over. There we go. So you guys can see exactly what I see. And I want to make this oracle roll to see if when Leah was in the cave, and now that she's spent some time with them and she's spent some time with the cult, if she had found anything that links those two. So are those two linked in any way? Yes. Okay, that's good. That's what I wanted to know. All right, so they are linked, which means that they are going to be probably interested in the corrupted water myrmidon armor. And maybe there's some connection as to why the water myrmidon went to that place. We don't know yet. We're gonna figure that out. But now we know for certain that Lia was able to either recognize symbols. I assume she recognized symbols that were in that ritual cavern that was also had a thing, and she recognizes that as tied to what she's learned from the cultists, seeing them in Slough Valley Oasis and now in Cargenton. So that's good. All right, and the third thing that we have is talking about the spell scrolls in Greece. So the rules as written with spell scrolls, at least in 5th edition, is that transferring a spell scroll, a spell from a spell scroll into a wizard's spell book destroys that spell scroll. And I don't really like that. I think that's a little bit silly, considering that you already have to spend a bunch of time and a bunch of money to copy spells into a spell scroll, or to copy spells into a spell book anyways. I didn't really feel like it needed a third resource tax for that. I mean, it's still, knowing that spell doesn't, it still doesn't give us the ability to cast more spells in a day or anything. It just gives us a little bit more versatility. And it's Grease, which is a cool spell, but it's incredibly situational. So I decided that I'm just going to keep it how it works, and that's probably what I'm going to be doing. I feel like that's how I've always done it in 5e. Like, I needed to go look that up. And it makes sense that the spell scroll's destroyed per how 5th edition writes stuff, but I didn't really think it grokked very well with how I wanted to play the game, and especially being a solo adventure with a wizard. Lia's already incredibly weak in a lot of areas, especially for combat, so I don't feel like giving her basically a 50 gold step up in an item that she can transfer into anything else is that big of a thing, especially considering that in my games I don't give out a lot of coinage, both for games that I run for myself and for other people. It kind of avoids that Monty Hall problem that a lot of D&D games have, where, and especially 5th edition is really bad about it, is that you give characters a lot of gold, but they can't buy magic items for the most part, or at least rules is written, they're not supposed to be able to buy a lot of magic items. So they just have a bunch of gold and nothing to really spend it on. So, if anything, I do the inverse of that problem, which is that I never end up giving player characters enough gold. Like, even now, Lia's only got, I don't know, can you guys see that? No, I'm covering it up. But Lia right now, because she sold the Grease spell, which gave her 25 gold, I think is what, because I think she failed the charisma check. So we have 30 gold. So I mean, she's not exactly raking it in. She has enough, and we basically need to sell it because she needed to pay at the, for the rooms at the end and for the mule for the stabling. So I mean, she's hardly raking in gold doing this. Most of everything she's done has been net even, if not net loss. And that makes sense for the adventure that she's on. She's on sort of a fact-finding investigation mission. She's not, plumbing dungeons, searching for riches or anything like that, because that's not the story that we're at least embroiled in for the moment. Now that may change, but for now, that's not what it is. And let's see. Oh, right. And the fourth thing that I wanted to mention, because it is related to the spell scroll, is that oftentimes I'll allow characters to sell valuable items at 50% of value instead of 10%, which is how the rules is written to work. If you sell something back, it's supposed to be 10% of the value. But, I don't know, I feel like selling a spell scroll, a level 1 spell scroll for 5 gold seems really silly. Like, it doesn't make sense in my mind that any PC would ever sell a spell scroll for that amount. So I was like, 25 gold, half the price, sounds much more amenable. When it's like, I just need some cash and to make it worth my while. Oh, that your mage taking all the creation talents, nice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty standard problem. Really, the only tax that I see in 5e for handling an immense amount of wealth is consumable items, and most of that comes down to healing potions. But then, it has its own problem, whereas like the ability to actually buy healing potions and making that make sense in game world, right? Rolling up to a village and being like, I want to spend 500 gold on healing potions in some random village, and they're like, we have maybe one. We don't have any more than one. You can buy one. So that's everything, at least as far as the housekeeping goes. I just want to make that clear, because I know if you don't, you get comments about that sort of stuff, and I'm just like, I know I'm getting a little outside the rules as written, so I just want to make it clear. And that goes with Lia's familiar, but we talked about that already long ago when I gave it to her. That she has sort of a more powerful familiar that can actually do some attacks and things like that, which is not really how it's written in the rules, but again, we're playing a solo RPG, so, and she's a pretty frail wizard, so anything she can get that will give her a leg up is needed. It's certainly not making her overpowered. I mean, we've seen that she really hasn't used Igni all that much, because he hasn't been that useful. Though if I had remembered last session, we probably could have tried to do something with him, try to get around some of the things that we were having issues with, but that's for that. Let me swap it back over, and then I'll read off my little script here, and we'll do the full recap, and then we'll jump back in, because we got a lot going on. We got a lot of irons in the fire. Let's see. There we go. Whoop. Fade in. Yeah, wait. You're really useful. Yeah. I didn't think that character was useful. No, the character's super useful. That's part of the problem. Yeah, I like those characters too that have outside of combat utility, a lot of usefulness like that. I always like to try to add that into my characters whenever I can. So here's sort of the recap from last time. So we started off trying to liberate the silver dragon wormling from Carjunton. That was our main goal. That's where we kind of left off the previous episode. Like, we had pissed off the Ghast, pissed off Northcruth. Both of those are still probably going to be an issue at some point. But we were able to avoid them enough, and then we had to, skirt around and try to find a way to get this creature, this injured dragon wormling out of town. So the first thing is that we kind of left Lia. This was a pretty Omer-heavy episode, at least in the beginning. We kind of had to leave Lia with the dragon to protect it, because, again, as we know, Omer doesn't really have any combat skills, so if anybody came back to do anything to the wormling, he wasn't going to be able to stop them. So we kind of sent him to run around and try to figure out a way to get this wormling out of here, which makes sense, because it's Omer's fault that we basically have to do this anyway. He's the one that basically made this arrangement. So we went to the butcher back at the inn, because we knew that he would have cart, but he wasn't leaving the next day, and we knew we were on a pretty compacted timeline. So we didn't want to hold the dragon in the city any longer than possible. We really wanted to make as much headway as possible while the Ghast and Northcruth were sort of on their heels after the engagement that we had with them. So in that, we took Omer to see Camille, and Camille, of course, does not have a cart, but they were able to sort of get together. I think during that, obviously, Omer encountered another zombie. So we keep encountering zombies in Carjunton, specifically at night. And I've added that to our plot list. We think that this is due to sort of the Slaver's Affliction, but we don't know that for sure. But that's sort of our lead that we've got right now. But we don't know, if that's the case, why they're only showing up at night. Because so far we haven't really had... The closest we've had is the first zombie we encountered was during sort of the twilight hours of the morning, while Lia and Omer were on their way to the first muster for their community service. But he encountered another one, tried to attack it, didn't go well, did 1 point of damage to it, and then decided to flee after it nearly killed him. So we got Camille. Camille wasn't able to really help with that. but he was able to give us some information that the cult that we know of from Split Valley Oasis is also fighting the undead. So we thought, oh well, maybe together they'll be helpful. So we kind of went to them, or Omer and Camille went to the cult to sort of talk about that, try to persuade the cult. Due to some bad die rolls, they were not really interested in helping us because they needed to use the cart for something else. What we found out through some back and forth diplomacy was that they were trying to break a sacred item out of the conservatory, and so they were going to do basically the old steal the ATM and figure out how to get the money out of it later, rather than try to figure out how to get the money out of it while it's still attached to the ground. So in that, there was some back and forth. We were like, okay, well, if you let us, look, Lia and Omer are both very familiar with the conservatory. We know how to get in. We know exactly where this thing is that you're looking for. We know how to get access to it. If you let us borrow your cart right now, so we can deal with this wormling, we'll get your ring. And so Omer was able to convince them, and so they were able to basically give us a cart and I suppose a mule or 2 mules or however that works. We got some disguises from the cult, and we got some documentation from the cult that was able to make it extremely easy for us to get out of Cartoonton without drawing a lot of suspicion from the guards and things like that. So it was pretty easy. Took the wormling out, took it out about an hour's walk outside of town, let it free in little copse of trees, and that was that. And we came back, did that, realized that we had to go to the morning muster, and we convinced Camille to pay for 1 day of Lia's and Omer's indenture. So that way they would give them the freedom for a day to be able to figure out what they were going to do with the conservatory. But they still had to be back for the morning's muster at this point. So we did that. Lia copied the spell scroll of Grease, which takes an hour, and then sold it. Of course, that cost her 50 gold, and then she recouped 25, and now that's why she only has 30 gold at this point. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else? No, they snuck into Riverside Conservatory because remember they still had the faculty cloaks that they had taken off the clothesline. And so they had those and they were able to sneak in. They were sort of peeled off and sort of interrogated slightly, but they were able to sort of fast talk their way through that. And they got inside. They made a beeline basically for the magical archive and catalog where all the magic items are held. And were able to very easily make it through a work study student who was in charge of the front desk of that area, who clearly wasn't paying attention. They signed a fake name. They went in, they grabbed the ring, and came back out. Now the ring, because it's part of the archives, can only be held until the end of the day. So they're supposed to bring it back before the end of the day. So as soon as the end of the day comes, that becomes a problem for them because people will start looking for them and the ring. Now, Omer signed a fake name, they got the ring, they moved on. They went to the librarian. There were librarians that they thought would recognize them, so they kind of decided to leave that for the moment. They went to go check Harol's office. Harol's office does still have Harol's nameplate on it for some reason, which is a bit weird, because as far as we know, Harol's supposed to be dead. But it was locked, and they knocked on it, and nobody answered the door. And one of the problems that we have playing a solo RPG, of course, is that neither Lia or Omer have a way to pick locks. So their only other, and they don't have any magical means of sort of teleporting behind the door at this point. So their only other means of getting through that door would be to break it down, which would cause a ruckus, and that's would be a problem for multiple reasons. Because again, they're not actually supposed to be, as discredited academics, they are not supposed to be at this place. They are basically banned from the grounds. They're not supposed to be here, but they are. So at that point, they decided they were going to go try Arias's office, because Arias, remember, they had written a couple different letters to, I think, at this point, or a couple different messages, and they haven't. It's been radio silence. They haven't gotten anything back from Arias. But as they do, they swing by the library. They see that the attendant is gone, so they can sneak in and kind of take care of things. They research to try to find clues, or they weren't able to find their research, so they went first to go check to see if their research was actually on the shelves. It wasn't. Harol's supposed to have hidden it somewhere in the library, but they have no clue where. And they also looked for any sort of like clues or signs that we hit. We had kind of talked previously that we're pretty sure that Harol is, due to his nature, is pretty big into sort of like codes and ciphers and things like that, but we weren't able to find any clues about those. Again, poor rolls really hurting us. So we scoured the stacks, we didn't find any clues, and then they both then decided to go to Arias's office. Door was locked. Nameplate on the door again, right? It is Arias's office. But nobody answers the locked door. They had some people come by, and so they had to hide really quickly in basically a janitorial closet. And they were able to find a janitor's key ring in there. The problem is that none of the keys are labeled. And so it's basically all the keys, as far as we can tell, for the entire campus in this giant, big, like, custodian key ring. But they have no idea which key goes to what door. And so that's going to be sort of a time-taking affair to probably get through it. So they know that, the only way they're going to have access to try to check these locked rooms where they're not going to get spotted is if they wait basically till the end of the day and students and faculty start to leave the campus at that point. And then once it's fully night, they kind of have a much more free reign. Not total free reign. They have a much easier ability to sort of move around, that they won't get caught if they stick around in one place too long. It was during this time that they did get approached by somebody, and it was while they were going back to the library, because they figured that the library is the best place to hunker down. And that's just based off of my own experience at university, being that you can find people sleeping in the library all the time, or doing more amorous activities in the library. That also happens. But that would be their best place to sort of hunker down until people start to filter out of the campus, so they can hide and then make their way out. But as they were doing that, they did get approached by somebody who was looking for the ring that they had, and they kind of fast talked and kind of told them to go check out one of the wings that has laboratories in it for them to do sort of the experiments and everything. And that's basically where we left off. That's basically the entire episode from last time. So that's pretty much it. So that's where we are. So we are on the clock timer right now. So one of the things that I do want to figure out pretty quickly is sort of how seriously they take Riverside Conservatory, how seriously they take missing items from the archives. Like, I can imagine that schools are very different. Like, sometimes that they're like, ugh, a professor forgot to bring, such and such back, whatever. We'll get it from them tomorrow, whatever. Rather than try to chase them down at their home and try to get them out of bed and bring them back up to the college to get their thing back. Or maybe they do take it that seriously. We don't really know. Now, as a ring of swimming, it's a valuable item, but it's not really a dangerous item as far as we know. Now, it is a sacred item for the cult, but I don't know if that puts it in a very specific sort of high-risk category. But we do want to figure that out, so let's go ahead and get back here. There we go. Missing parts have the same theme. Could be. That could be true. I hadn't thought about that. It's a good thought. Alright, so really I want to ask an oracle question. I want to know, Are they scouring the campus to find this magic ring? Are like the authorities? Yes. Okay. All right. So I think that that's going to make things a little bit more difficult for us. Now, how do I want to model that? I think the way that I'm going to model that is by making... So usually when we roll the d12 for sort of random encounters that might happen while we're doing things, usually a 12 is just sort of a fluff aside dressing kind of thing. But I think in this case, that's also going to be an encounter. Like, they're seriously looking for this thing. So if I roll a 1 or a 12, we're going to have to deal with faculty, probably, who are trying to find this. And their disguises probably aren't going to hold up much longer, because they've basically gotten the one use out of it, which was to tell the first person who was looking for them something else. But that person's going to immediately talk to somebody else that's from the same department, and they're going to figure out that those people don't work here. Those people don't work here. Nobody of those that looks like that or has those names works in their department, which is going to be a problem. So until they figure out a way to... Maybe they can get some other cloaks or something else like that, but until they figure that situation out, on a roll of 1 or 12 while they're doing things, they're going to have to deal with faculty security of some measure. So that's not great. That's a 1 in 6 chance that, every time they kind of move from one area to another or spend some time trying to do something, that they're going to get approached by faculty security of some type. But it is night now. We did random encounter rolls to get us up to this point, so they've gone through their rest. They've basically taken a long rest at this point in the stacks of the library. And now they are ready to sneak out. And I think that their first point of order... Let me go ahead and pull this up. I think their first point of order right now is obviously getting into Harol's office. That's their first point of order. That's why they're here. They've checked the library. They haven't found anything about their research or anything to do with Harol. They can't really talk to anybody because, again, there's a high likelihood if they talk to anybody who's on faculty that they're going to get recognized. And if they talk to students, there's a high likelihood that the students don't know anything because they don't work there. And they probably haven't been around Harol or know that much about Harol. So our first thing is that we got to get back to Harol's office. So let's do our first roll. See if they come across anything while they're sneaking around. No. Just barely, though. Just barely missed it. Okay, so they make it back to Harol's office. I guess let's ask you an oracle question. Now that it's dark, and I assume they can see... There's enough of a gap in the door that they should be able to see whether there's light on the other side. Like, is there a lamp going on or something like that? Now, I think based off of previously, kind of our investigation, I think that that's very unlikely. So I'm going to give it a -5, but, just to see. Okay. No. Not even close. Alright. No problem. So that does I think that's going to make it very easy to probably break in. I'm going to guess that this place is pretty much a ghost town after night falls. Again, the faculty starts to move off. If you're not in sort of like the laboratory areas where you're doing like active research, I mean, I guess there could be people in their offices like grading papers and doing things like that. But I assume unless there's faculty that's actively engaged, most of the students, if they're on campus, are going to probably be in the library. And any of the faculty is going to be off doing their own thing or have already left for the day. So the question is, how are we going to get in here? Well, we've got this key ring, so let's make some checks. So I think, how do I want to do this? All right, so I'm going to roll a d6. And when I roll a 6, that'll be us getting through the door. Every time I don't roll a 6, we're going to have to roll that d12 again. And that's going to just model us just trying keys, trying to get through. Okay, so we can get through on the first one. Oh. All right, so they immediately get clocked by campus faculty, by somebody on campus pretty quickly. So the question is this security? Let's ask that first. Is this security? Let's go with this one. All right. Well, that was just really a yes or no. This is in itself kind of an interrupt scene. Well, no, not necessarily, I guess. Let's say that this is an interrupt scene. So the person that they're actually getting interrupted by will be the interrupted scene. That's a little weird, but that's what we're going to go with. All right. Let's see. All right, 14. Extraordinary location. All right. Create, release, or use. So somebody's gonna, I think that's gonna be probably a use extraordinary location. Let's see. An existing NPC. Okay, so some sort of existing NPC that we have is trying to use an extraordinary location. So let's look at our NPC list real quick. Let's see who's gonna make sense for this. So we do have some people from Riverside Conservatory. You know, I think let's just roll the d4 and then for the grouping, and then we'll move down. I think that works. Because I could see numerous people being here. Okay, 1. Oh. So that peddler that we sold the flask with flavors of fiction bodily fluids to. So okay, yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot. I think that they're sitting here in this sort of clandestine affair, right? They're in the hallway. They're kind of hunkered over. I assume that Omer's got like a little candle or something that he's kind of holding close so they can kind of see. Because otherwise, remember, it's nighttime in a pre-electrical lighting kind of situation. So this hallway is probably extremely dark. So he's kind of got like a little candle that he's holding as they're sort of huddled close to the door, trying keys. Kind of like, ugh. I think that they clock somebody else coming down the hallway, and then I think that the parties kind of see each other, and then this other person sort of hides. They think, oh, well, that's pretty weird for somebody to hide. All right, do they recognize that person? That's a good question. Let's so it's somebody we know, but I don't know if they recognize him. So let's just roll a perception check real quick. There's 2 of them, so I'll give them both a bit. So they get advantage, but we'll use Leah's numbers. Now she only has a +1, but that is a natural 20, so I'll take that all day. So yeah, I think she immediately clocks the peddler. I mean, she only met the peddler. I don't know. No, I guess she met the peddler a few days ago, right? Because we did, what, 3 days for Northproof? It's a few days ago, but I mean, otherwise she hasn't had much interaction with anybody else in the city. So, I guess, I think she's probably like, hey, psst, psst, hey, you. She kind of calls out. I think the peddler kind of pokes their head around. And then there's a little interaction that happens until they sort of like come together to actually speak to each other. I think obviously the first question that everybody's going to ask is, why are you here? And why are you here? So how much do Lia and Omer want to talk about it? Well, Lia and Omer are dressed in cloaks that make them seem like they should be here. So I think that she would try to deceive on that point. Like, hey, and I mean, obviously there's a reason why we're here. So we'll give her advantage on the check. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's what, 19? We'll check the DC, but I think it's going to be high enough. Yes, for sure. That was only a 13. So, but why are you here, peddler? Well, obviously the peddler's here to... Now, is the peddler here to... yeah, well, thanks for tuning in for the little bit that you could. Get some sleep. Have a good night. Bye. So the thing that I'm trying to figure out is our peddler trying to access the magic items, maybe? I guess that'll be the... Maybe let's give him an insight check first to see, because this peddler could be lying. Give him an insight check. Again, gonna get advantage on most of these because there's 2 of them there. Now, that's not a very good insight check. That's a whopping 10. Which is not going to beat that DC of 12. Alright. Well, very interesting. Okay, so I think that he kind of rattles off an excuse, and I think that's close enough DC that they can't really tell like whether that's a lie or not. It probably seems pretty fishy, but they can't be. It's not clear enough that they're like, nah, that's not true. And I think, given the situation, they probably don't want to press it too much. Do they ask why? Is Lia concerned with why? The person's here? Does it have something to do with the blood? I don't know if Lia cares. I don't know, they're pretty preoccupied. And I think that she would try to make the 3 of them would try to make a tacit agreement like, hey, look, I didn't see you, you didn't see me. Alright? And, sure, we'll roll a persuasion for that. Another natural 20? Apparently, Lea's got the talking bug today. She's like, oh, yeah. Look, we didn't see you. You didn't see us. I don't know your name. You don't know my name. It's whatever. You do what you gotta do. Just, don't come back this way. I think they kind of have that agreement, and then kind of set off. All right, so let's jump in. All right, we gotta try to do this door again. Come on, 6. No. All right. Oop, taking this first one. All right, no, didn't get that one. All right, cool. All right, so more minutes go by. And at this point, it's gonna come by, and this time, I think it's most definitely somebody. So here's a question: is this a faculty member, or I guess is this a member of the? I should say, is this a member of security? I'm gonna give it a +3 at this point. We did a flat roll and it wasn't them, so we're gonna kind of like escalate it. 16. Okay, yeah. So it's definitely faculty security at this point. So again, Omer's got the light, the candle up, and they're still working on keys, trying to get keys through here. And then how many of these guys are there? Let's figure that out. So we have we got basically 2 first level characters. Yeah, well, if my buttons will work, there we go. And we're basically gonna do humanoids, right? The humanoids, and our environment's gonna be, is it urban? Yeah. Alright, so let's do that. And let's generate an encounter real quick. Alright, well, it's not gonna be a noble, it's not gonna be a drow. Let's see what we got. What would make sense? Okay, let's do this by CR. That'll be easier. Look at that. All right. I mean, a guard, right? We're talking about guards. They should be guards. All right, so maybe up to 3 guards. You know what? I'll give it a 1d4. 1d4 amount of guards. So because if it's 4 guards, yeah, I can't imagine a faculty having any more than 1 or 2. Just because that's generally how guards on patrol work. They're either by themselves or in pairs. So let's just roll. Evens, there'll be 2. Okay, there's 1 guard. Alright, so there's 1 guard. Guard's like, hey, what are you 2 doing? Do they try to talk to the guard? I imagine so. I think they're going to try to keep that con going as long as they can, because they've got the cloaks. I don't feel like most guards would be on a very close basis with most of the faculty, to as far as knowing them by face or name, really. So I think they'll just try to quick talk him real quick. Try to move their way around this guard. Be like, yeah. So I think, and if they're successful here, I think she's going to try to leverage the guard into helping them. But let's see. So this is going to be a deception check. About, oh yeah, we're just trying to get something out of the office. All right, so that's a total of a 12, which is not a great roll. Oh wait, she has advantage. She has Omer with her. I forget. Oh, well, hold up, everybody. That 12? No, I don't think so. A 13 is what we have. All right. So much for wanting to talk. I'm not gonna have the silver tongue, or maybe no. That's a 16. Yeah, so I think that okay, so we just basically went from the guard went from clocking somebody to then now the guard's into full suspicious mode and is coming closer to them, like coming up to them. I think at that point they probably know that the jig is up. That this is not going to go well, because obviously they tried to fast talk and that didn't work. So I think Leah's just going to, as soon as this guy starts coming towards her, Leah's going to immediately just pop off a firebolt. Just immediately try to slap him with a firebolt. I'll take a shot. Leah, stone cold murderer. All right, well, 9 points of fire damage. How many hit points does a guard have? It can't be very many, right? Has a 1/8 CR. They're in the monster manual 347. Okay, let's look up 347 real quick. A guard has 11 hit points. Okay. So, got 2 hit points left after that attack. So let's go ahead and let's roll some initiative. All right. Hopefully this won't. Hopefully they'll be able to take this person out. All right. So the guard has dex of 1. So they'll go on 11. All right. So one for Leah. Okay. Nope. That's going to be for Omer. Okay, so Lia and Omer both get to go before the guard. So there's a high likelihood they're going to be able to... And I assume they've already had a problem with killing people. Well, Leah's had a problem with killing people. So they're going to try to non-lethal this. They don't really want to kill this guy. This guard for doing their job. So, all right, Omer's up first. Yeah, I think Omer's gonna close the distance, and I think he's just gonna take his dagger and just try to cold cock him in the head, the guard in the head with it. Try to knock him out. I'm with a roll of a 3, though. Were we doing flanking? I can't remember if we were doing flanking. That's how long. I'm pretty sure we were doing flanking. I'm pretty sure we were using the flanking rules. Just because it's kind of difficult to get advantage otherwise. For a wizard, anyways. With some non-combat people. So then, of course, Lia will close the distance. And I'm trying to think. Or does she want to use a spell? She gets advantage, and she could just probably pop him with a staff. If she does 1 point of damage, this guy goes down. On a die roll. So yeah, I think she will close the distance. She will take because she wants the advantage rather than trying to cast a spell, even though a spell's got a better chance of hitting. Oh no. Oh no! That's a 3 and a 2. Those aren't gonna hit. Lia, what are you doing? That's no good. Okay, you're breaking my heart. Alright. So yeah, this guard comes up and is like, hey, what are you doing? And then it's like, oh, we're trying to get into this office. Clearly, that's what they're doing. Yeah, but it's super suspicious-like. And so as the guard starts walking closer, Lia's like, bam, with a firebolt. Catches him off guard. Haha. Pun. Guard. Off guard. Okay. And then they just kind of slap fight and don't really get anything accomplished after that. And now it's the guard's turn. Now, the guard's down 2-1. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna use morale. Because I don't think this, our rent-a-cop Conservatory guard is in this to fight to the death. I don't think they're interested in doing that. Now they do. My assumption is that they do have basically a signal whistle to blow to get the attention of other guards, because there's gonna be more than one guard for this place. But try to get people's attention. But this guard's first and primary, idea is I got to get out of the situation because it's 2-on-1 and I'm barely, hanging on to consciousness as it is because of that firebolt, which I assume just probably hit them square in the head, or maybe center mass and just kind of knock the wind out of them. So they're going to disengage and start moving the other way, and they're going to full speed move. All right, which brings it back to Omer. So if the guard disengages, and then so they're 30 feet away. Yeah, I guess he's gonna close the distance and still try to. And I mean, at this point, the guard, as a free action, starting to shout, right, before they pull, because pulling the whistle out and using the whistle is going to be an action, but just shouting's not an action. So that's what they're gonna do. That's what the guard's gonna do. So Omer's gonna come up and try to get him with the pommel again. I think that hits the guard. Let me double check. Oh, no. Well, I don't think that a Conservatory guard, normal guard, would be carrying its shield. I don't think that seems a little silly to me. So I'd say that armor class would be 14 instead of 16, which Omer's going to hit because he rolls a 15. I'm not doing that just so Omer can hit. I mean, I don't care about that. I just don't think. Right, and I'm thinking very much like how a normal security officer is. Like most security officers don't even carry, at least in the U.S., carry firearms. So I mean, they're not for fighting mainly. They're mainly a preventative measure. Like their presence is supposed to be the thing. And so I think he pops him with the pommel of his dagger in the back of the head as he's running away, and he kind of crumples down to the floor. But he did shout, and that's going to be a problem. Alright, so what's the plan? Let's play. I think Lia goes back to trying to get the door. I think she's going to try to get one more door. Omer's going to have to do something with the body. So let's deal with... So Lia's going to try to get through the door. Ooh, so close. Alright, so no, didn't get that. Omer's going to... Let's ask this. Is there another nearby sort of broom closet or cupboard or something we can sort of stick this unconscious body in? Yes, okay. So we can stick them in there. Now... Omer... Would Omer dress up as the security guard? As the security officer? Maybe. I think that's reasonable. So really the question is will this fit him? Now give it... He's a man. I was assuming the security guard is also a male. So I think there's a +3 to that roll that the uniform will fit him. Okay, so the uniform does not fit him. Will the uniform fit Lia? And I think that that's just a flat roll. No. Alright, so neither of them can wear this uniform. But now they've got an unconscious person. We don't know how long this person's going to stay unconscious. I don't think they would have brought like their backpacks and stuff with them. So I don't think that they have access to sort of the rope to tie somebody up with. So I think that they're just going to have to probably do whatever they can. So I think they're just going to put this person in a corner. And they're just going to have to try to go fast. Now, while that's happening, does anybody come to check that out? No, not yet. All right. We're really struggling with this door. You know, I probably should have given myself a modifier for the D6, like a +1 for every failed roll. I did not think about that. Do I want to start doing that now? Because we could roll a whole lot of not 6s on a D6. So maybe I should just roll till we get a 6, and then I'll know how many encounters perhaps we need to get through. Five, 2, 1. Ugh. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And D12s that we need to roll. Okay. Here's the first one. Okay, first one's good. 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 One more. Wow. Okay. So, all that shouting, I guess, was short enough that nobody came, or maybe nobody heard it. Maybe nobody's in any of the nearby offices. All right. So, we are... So I'm going to guess that this takes a while. They have to go through most of the key ring before they find the key that's going to open Harol's office. But eventually, they do find that. And he sticks a key in there and turns it, and this time it clicks. And she kind of, hey, come on, Omer. Kind of hustles Omer over. And they open the door to Harol's office. Is there anybody inside? I can't imagine there's somebody inside Omer's office. But, you know, let's not make assumptions. Let's just roll. We think it's highly unlikely, so it's a -5. All right, well, I'm no mathematician, but 20 minus 5 is still a yes at 15. All right, so somebody is inside this office. Listen to this whole commotion. Now, I had an idea if somebody was in here, just as I was saying it. And do you want to go with that? I don't know. I don't think so. So somebody is in here. Question is, I want to know if this is a situation, because I have a feeling that it's either one thing or the other. I think the first possibility is that it's the classic, you walk into a room and you see a chair face the other way and there's somebody sitting in the chair. And you're like, maybe alive, maybe dead, who knows. The other thing I was thinking of is maybe somebody's sneaking out of like a window. So let's go, is there somebody seated in the chair? Yes, okay. So classic, they open the door, they move it up, there's the desk, and the chair is turned around, and they see the top of a head. Now both of these people know what Harol looks like. Does it look like Harol on the backside? I mean, honestly, I think it's probably a 50-50 shot, because we have no... I would think that it would be unlikely, but that's under the assumption that the guard told us that Harol was dead. But Harol's nameplate is still on the door. So, who knows? I think it's 50-50. Does it look like Harol? At least from, like, the back of the head. Yes. Okay. Yes, and? Yes, and what? Yes, and 18. Yes, and we gain a resource. What kind of resource will we get from Harol's office? I mean, if we look at our notes, we have some very specific reasons for coming in here, right? We want to find out something about our research. But if somebody was doing something with Harol, if he was at risk, which is what we thought maybe, or that's what we do know from the letter. We do know that he's at risk from the letter. Why would they wouldn't just leave their research out, because then if he was at risk for the research, that doesn't make sense. So there's a resource in here that we could use. Right. Again, there could be a lot of things in here that we could use. We don't really know what's in Harol's. So, let me, I'm going to do one of our 1d20 subjects and objects to give us, a starting point. Because I think it could be so many things that it's hard to narrow down. So let me just make a random roll, and that'll give us that'll help us focus some. 5. An existing group or faction. That's a resource for us. Okay, well we got some factions, right? How many groupings do we have for NPCs? We have 4. Okay. Let's roll our 4. 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who's 4? Camille? I mean, Camille's already kind of a resource to us. And what does that have to do with... What does that have to do with Harol? Well, okay. Well, we can draw some parallels, right? We can draw some strings between these points. We know, because both of those people are connected to right? One, obviously, the research between her and Harol. in the letter that he wrote to her. And then obviously Camille and Leah are on and off again lovers. They kind of have a fraud. They're kind of a hot and cold couple, right? I mean, I'm not sure Leah gets along with a ton of people, and Camille, being a poet, has probably a very soft, sort of touchy-feely personality that probably grates on Leah, and vice versa. Alright, so we got a resource. Maybe it's a resource for Camille? Now, what would that be? So we do know that he's got some... We know that Harol's got some cipher kind of, like, he likes puzzles, things of that nature. So I'm wondering if this is a note. Well, alright. Maybe before we get too far into this, we should probably just find out if this is Harol, first of all, and if Harol's alive. So I think, like, Lia and Omer kind of share a look. I don't know. We didn't talk about whether the door made any noise when it opened, but they made a lot of noise outside they tried to bunch of keys. And this person didn't turn around, wasn't waiting for them. They knocked earlier. The person didn't answer the door if he had been in the room at that time. We don't know that. I think she's going to tentatively, like, reach out a hand and grab the edge of the desk chair and turn it around. Okay, so we knew it looked like Harol from the back. Is it Harol, though? I think it's +3. Alright, 8, 9, 10, 11. Which is technically an interrupt thing. Okay. Alright, so they go to spin the chair. What happens? 2. Belief, creed, or doctrine? Aid or help a belief, creed, or doctrine? So then really the only creed or doctrine that we have come across so far are the cultists. But this could be something new. Maybe it does this new creed or doctrine, just ask, and we can't interrupt and interrupt. Well, you know, does this have something to do with the primordial origin of dragons? I think that's highly likely. Everything that we've been leading up to. So I'm going to give this +5. Yes, absolutely. Alright, so... something that aid or helps the belief, creed, or doctrine. But let's get another D20, because I need some sort of... something else to help me this out. Ooh, a hazard or obstacle. Extraordinary. I'm trying to think, because the things that jump to my mind are traps or tricks, but that's something else that's on that list. So this has to be a hazard or an obstacle. And I'm gonna play that pretty loosey-goosey. I think there's probably like some sort of like dead man switch or something like that. That's something that activates as they turn the chair. What kind of thing to do? Like, I think... Do I have something in here? I think I may have some random obstacles. Let me see if I've got some random obstacles real quick. Because that would be really, really helpful. dungeon dressing, photos, dressing, random encounters. Alright. I do have some dungeon hazards, so let's see if one of those makes sense. I don't know, this all feels right now very constructed. Now, it could be a hazard in that it's an unintentional trap. Right? But let's, I'm gonna roll on the hazard table first. If I don't like what's on the hazard table, I'll roll on the trap table. 8, again. Oh, nope, that's kind of what I was thinking on, so that'll work. Alright, yeah. Which one of these is it? Two. Alright, so yeah, that makes sense. So they grab the chair and they turn the chair around, and who was before them but Harol, sitting in his office chair. The problem is that Harol is very, very dead. Very dead. And to the point where his body is just what's left of it, his corpse at this point. It's just ravaged by this very aggressive mold. It's sort of like eating out the eyes and the soft tissue, and, you know, it's like sort of like eating away the soft skin around his fingernails. Like the fingernails look long and cracked and crooked, and you know, he's got like a lolling open mouth, but the tongue's obviously gone, and there's just sort of like mold that's kind of pouring off and down his body. I think as they turn around, it blooms, and the motion just kind of explodes with spores and that nature. So let's give them, let's give Lia a save. Mold is usually, things of that nature, usually because they're airborne and cover a large area, aren't really dex saves. They're usually constitution saves. So let's do one for Lia. That's not good. That's probably not going to pass. One for Omer. Better. That's still just the 13, though. What's the DC? Oh, the DC's way high. Yeah. So they get blasted with this mold bloom that just kind of explodes on them as they turn the corpse of Harol around in this chair. Alright. Well, oof. And they'll each take 7 points of damage. Wow. Luckily, that I don't think that kills either one of them, right? Just barely, though. Thank goodness she has a +2 in con. Else that definitely would have knocked her out. Alright, so that explodes and blooms all over them, and they're like... like covering their face, and they probably run out of the room immediately. So they can get some air and let that sort of settle. And I think there's a settling. Well, let's see. While they're letting it settle, does somebody come by? Because they're still making kind of a bit of a noise. No, alright. Thankfully nobody comes by. But it does raise some questions. So, obviously Harol's dead. But nobody's moved his body, which is weird. But they know he's dead. They still have his name on the office, and there's a lot of things that aren't making sense. And when the knowledge of his death was widespread enough that a guard at the front gate knew he was dead and told Lia, just straight up told him that Harol was dead. Which was the case. But if that's the case, then why haven't they moved the body or done anything with it other than the mold, but what were they going to do? Just like let the mold be there? But they take their damage, and I think yeah, I think they can probably we did a roll. They can wait enough time. They've spent their wait enough time for the mold to sort of settle before they go back in there, and then they probably use their sleeves or like a handkerchief or something to sort of cover their mouth and nose so they can kind of check things out. I'm sure their eyes are really watery and itchy at this point. And so they're in there trying to figure out what's happening. Now we do know that we're going to get a resource for this. Something about this is going to give us a resource. But this is weird. Like, why mold? Now, again, that mold, maybe that's related to the undead situation. We don't know. I mean, if it wasn't related to the undead situation, Harol's clearly not undead. He didn't get up and walk around or anything. And certainly would have been making noise if he was a mindless undead once they started messing around with the door. So, I think it's time to tear. They're going to quickly tear this office apart, see if they can find any information. So, do they find any clues? Well, here's first. Now that we've seen the interior of the office, does the office look like it's been ransacked? Like somebody else has already tried to go through this? Maybe before or after Harol's death, we're not really sure. God, stop rolling too. No, okay, so nothing seems out of order. I mean, more so, I get the idea that as much as Harol was in charge of librarian organization and all that things, that his private office is probably kind of messy. I think there's stacks of books and all kinds of papers and stuff all over the place. I think all his organizational efforts went to the library itself and not necessarily to his sort of private office. So we don't really find any clues in here. But we are supposed to get a resource. So I think Lia and Omer kind of look at each other and kind of look at the body. And I think they have a little rock, paper, scissors to see like who's going to check the dead body for stuff. All right. On the high end, it will be Omer. All right, so Omer loses. He's like, it's like go up to the corpse and like start digging around in his pockets and stuff. All right, let's give him an investigation check. So Omer's investigation is, you know what? I feel like I do this every time. Let me move this over here and this over here. That'll make it much easier for you guys to see the pages. I feel like I do that every single time and then end up having to switch it. Why did you do that? Don't do that. There we go. Alright, so he's going to make an investigation check, which he gets +2 too. But Lia is not helping him with this. He is doing this on his own. 16. 16's pretty good. Okay, and 16 would definitely meet the DC. So the question is does he actually find anything? Look, we know they're going to find something in this room. We know they're already going to get a resource for it. So I think it's highly likely that they're going to find something on his body. Because they didn't find anything out of place. And we do know that, because we have it on Omer's sheet, right? Right, that he has the linguist feat. So he understands ciphers and cryptograms and things like that. So he knows what to look for those sorts of clues. If Harol is leaving those sorts of clues. So I'm going to give him a +5 that they're going to find something on this body. No. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. All right. Well, either somebody, if Harol had something on it, they took it off his body. This would have probably been better. I should have gone piece by piece, like through different parts of the room, which is fine. I can still do that because my first imagining for them doing the investigation checks was the shelves of the room, like the bookshelves of the room, because obviously they're still looking for the research too. Which I didn't ask: is there research on his bookshelf? No. Okay. I didn't think it would be, but good to check. All right, so they've checked the body. Now, Omer's trained in investigation, and like I said, he's got some sort of claim to... Actually, they're both trained in investigation. I think they need to... Now, they did a cursor... That's what I should say, is that they did a cursory look, and they didn't find anything. So now they've got to actually investigate. That's how we'll play this. Now they've got to actually investigate. They looked at the bookshelves, they didn't find anything that stood out. They were looking for, like, a pretty big, like, neon sign of a clue, and none of that came up. So now they've got to start really looking for clues. Like, either somebody's taken the clue and done something with it, or if there was anything in this room, but whoever it was didn't toss the room if somebody's been in here. And they had the keys and knew how to lock the door back. Or potentially came in through the window. I assume that there was a window, like the offices were sort of on the outside of the building. On the outside of the hallway for the building. So now it's time to start actually investigating. So we looked over his body, didn't find anything on his body. But these people are smart. And I think Omer especially has sort of that clandestine idea that he knows kind of what to look for. And it's kind of my idea about it. Is that yeah, I think he knows what to look for. Now, where do I want to check first is really the question. Do I... That's a good one. So I think the first thing they're going to do is they're going to check the desk. I think they're going to look at the shelves. They're going to pull out the shelves. They're going to look behind the shelves, under the shelves. They're going to check for false bottoms in the drawers. They're going to do all that stuff. They're going to start tearing this place apart. Because Harol's, as far as I know, I mean, Arias might give them a lead, but as far as I know, Harol's the only lead they got. So they're going to have advantage. We'll take Lia, because Lia's is going to be higher. Investigation. So she gets a +5 to the roll. They're going to have advantage. They're going to tear apart this desk. Alright, so it's 17. Which is a pretty good roll. Not that one. Which would beat the DC. Alright, do they find anything? I think that's a very obvious place to look, so I'm not going to give him a bonus to it, because I think if Harol was really smart, he wouldn't hide in the most obvious place. So it's just a flat roll. But that's still a yes. Okay, so they find something. They find some sort of clue, in addition to a resource. You know, that was really dumb. There was one thing I hadn't considered. We know that this guy has a bunch of mold on him. We can consider whether the mold itself was the clue. I should have thought about that earlier. Is the mold the clue? Alright, but they're going to find something. Alright, so they find something in his desk. Is it their research? I'll just ask straight up. I think that's unlikely. -3. Yeah, it's not their research. Is it perhaps a letter to somebody else? I think that's 50-50. No. Is it some sort of cipher or cryptograms? Some sort of cipher clue? I think that is more likely. I think that's a +3. Yes. Okay. So they found some sort of cipher clue, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make a note of this. Let's go all the way up to the top. All right. So we got into the office. So it did find some sort of. So it should be cipher clue hidden in Harol's desk. All right. Now the question is, my original question. Then let's go back to that. Is the mold itself a clue? The mold's so weird. It has to be, right? Why mold? Otherwise, why mold? And I mean, again, it could be foul play, right? We'd already considered that. And well, maybe let's ask that question first. Do we suspect the mold is foul play? Do we have a role that would make sense for that? Now, we could use a nature skill, but neither of these guys are trained in nature. But that doesn't mean that they might not recognize it. And I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm trained in nature, but I know some things about the natural world and plants and animals. So, and it is an intelligence skill. So I'll give him advantage, but she's only gonna get the +3 for it. All right, so +3, that'll bring it to 12. Let's see if the DC. That's DC 15. So they're not really able to glean too much from at least the state that Harol's body in, and their lack of knowledge as far as sort of biology goes, and death and decay and corpses and all that sort of stuff. They're certainly not their level of speciality. Can they identify the mold, maybe? So I think this is going to be an Arcana check first, because I want them to figure out whether they... I'm doing that based off of their elemental and primordial backgrounds, to see if they recognize the mold itself as potentially being a clue. Alright, well, we rolled really well. Alright, so they would know for certain whether the mold is weird or not. So, is the mold weird? 10. 10 or 11 is usually an interrupt scene. Do I want to do an interrupt scene? Yeah. Maybe, well... It could really hurt us in the long run. We have a PC and a sidekick, both with 1 hit point. But yeah, let's do an interrupt scene. They've been in here for a while. They're tearing this place apart. They're making noise. There's a likelihood that something's gonna happen while they're doing this. Extraordinary information or technology. To hamper or hinder. To hamper or hinder an existing NPC. So that tells me that there's some sort of magical aura thing that's going on in this room. To hamper or hinder an NPC. Somebody we know. So there's going to be some interaction that they have that's going to tip them off that. Ooh, that's something I hadn't considered. Is there like a modify memory sort of like forgetfulness spell aura that's in this room? And that's why people act so weird about Harol's death, because like half of them forget about it. Or maybe it's sort of like a calm emotions thing, like it kind of strips away the I was gonna say, I lost the word to describe this. Oh man, I can't. My brain. When something is very serious, the severity of the issue, the weight of the circumstances. Like, it becomes, rather than, oh, there's a dead guy in this office, to being like, oh, there's a dead guy in this office. No, Harol's dead. Right, that just kind of removes the gravity of the situation. That's what I was trying to think of. So I'm going to give Lia an Arcana check for that, because I'm going to guess that that's probably what it is. Is Omer in Arcana? He is, okay. The standard. Well, that's not a great roll. So 10, 11, 12. Alright, 12. Does DC beat 12? Probably. Again, she's a pretty fledgling wizard, so there's a high chance. Actually, the DC is 12. Alright. So she's like, wait. There is definitely something magical going on here. And I think... So is it that sort of modify memory kind of thing? I'll give it a +3. I think that's likely. That might not necessarily be it. No, I like that. Let's just go with the +5. I kind of want this to happen. The more you want it, right? The more you want it, the less likely you are to get it. I shouldn't have said it out loud. I made that one happen doing that. Okay. Dope. Alright, so it's not a modify memory spell of some sort. But it is magical in nature. I don't think it could be something like silence, because we would have already had that come out. What other sort of magic thing might it be? Well, it's supposed to hinder another NPC. So let's... Who is it supposed to hinder? Now, we have our... 1. Okay, that's good. It's supposed to hinder. And... I skip that. We already used the peddler, and the peddler's around. Ooh, was the peddler coming here? No, let's go with that. Was the peddler coming here? Was he expecting that the peddler was going to come in here and try to... try to ransack his office or something? That's possible. But something that keeps a specific person out. Or perhaps it's hiding a specific object or item. Specifically from the peddler. Alright. Okay, I like that. So, he's hiding something... from the peddler. All right, we've been in here a while. Let's make a random roll. Somebody else comes in, sees us. No, all right. So we're still good. All right, so the cipher clue I think is going to take Omer some time to figure out. So that's not a right now kind of thing. Is there anything else that they can get out of this office, I think? Let's give it just another investigation check. They're going to take one more good look over. And this will just be a more general one, because we've gotten some things out of here. We still need to figure out what sort of nice resource they get. So let's do that real quick. 18 plus 5. All right, so 23. Oh, this one's too many. All right, well, we'll definitely beat the DC. Do we find anything else of note in here? Yes. Is it... Yeah, let's just roll on our subject numbers. 15. Some sort of news report or rumor. I'm thinking maybe some sort of like hastily scribbled note. Oh, I've got a good idea for that. So I think it's maybe like a hastily scribbled note, maybe perhaps before he dies, that they find under sort of like maybe like one of those felt toppers for the desk, and you kind of flip it open, there's like a hastily scribbled note. And so my question is to kind of tie things in, because things are getting kind of wonky. We got some weird players that are in here now. But my question is kind of going down here to our groupings NPCs, because this person should be in Carjunton, and I don't know why I haven't added this person yet. Is it under... Well, we know what happened to Omer. And what happened to Harol. Harol's dead. So, here. And, sorry. I'm keeping it where you guys can't see it. Here we go. I want to know if... I want what I want. And again, I'm speaking it into existence. Which... so far has not worked out very well for me, but, you know, fingers crossed, maybe this time's different. That the hastily scribbled note that we find under Harol's sort of felt topper for his desk, it says to seek out the midnight lilac. That's what I want it to be. Oh, hey, how are you doing? We're doing some solo RPG play, D&D 5e. We are doing an investigation. We're getting some clues. There is a dead person in this office in a sort of university setting who is covered in mold. One of our fellow colleagues who has been dead for a little bit. So, does this note tell us to seek out the midnight lilac? Alright, well, 10's a no. Okay. Does it tell us to seek out somebody in particular? Yes. Okay, so it is somebody. Is it somebody we know? No. Alright, somebody we don't know. Alright, so somebody we haven't heard of. Are they in Carjunton? Are they in the city? Yes. Alright, so somebody in the city. So I think for that, we're going to jump to the 1D100 NPCs list. I think that'll probably be just the easiest way to sort of track it down. Because obviously, if this is a note for Lia and Omer, they couldn't... He couldn't just give them a name because they wouldn't know who the person was. So they've got to give them some sort of idea of who this person is. So let's do a D100 real quick. And that will tell us who this person is. 95. Interesting. A construction, mine, plantation, or work camp overseer. So, this is a city, so probably not a mine or... Okay, well, let's just ask that. I don't really want another interrupt scene, but... So, is this like a construction foreman? What I want to know is if it's going to be the foreman, and if it's not the foreman, then it's going to be like an owner. In that case, it could be like a plantation or something like a Akari. Okay, no. All right, so it is an owner. And we got like 4 different things. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So we need to seek out the owner of some sort of construction. Assuming this is in the city, so I'm going to assume a building. Let's go ahead and just add that to right here. Oh, let's go back up to the top. All right. So we know we're hiding something from the peddler. And scribbled note. Scribbled note to seek out the owner of a building that's under construction. Interesting. I wonder what kind of building it is. I guess we could figure out which district it is right now. I don't want to get too far down the weeds because we still have a bunch of other stuff to do while we're on campus during the night. But I assume that it's going to tell us what district they're in. So we have 8 districts in Carjunton. I still haven't digitized the map. I still have it on a piece of paper. I'll do that at some point. I don't know when. I didn't think it was going to come up. Oh, cool. So it's 3. It's in the Basilica. Interesting. Interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So it is in the Basilica. Of course, if you guys have any questions about what we're doing and things are going on, you can drop that in the chat. Also, just how are you doing? We've started doing the solo RPG stuff on Thursday. I was previously doing it on Sundays, but my in-person D&D game kind of switched nights on us, so I'm switching the nights that we're running this. All right, so this is building. I'm just going to add this here and sort of like little parentheses. In the Basilica district. Which means that it's in the district where sort of the government buildings are, the city. So, very interesting. Curiouser and curiouser. All right, I feel like we've gotten everything that we're going to get out of Harol's office. Are they going to do anything with the body? Are they going to do anything with the body, and do they want to take a short rest? If they are going to take a short, I don't know. They still have that KO'd guard out there. I don't think they can take the time. All right. So I think I've got an idea. All right. So we're going to go grab the unconscious guard. We're going to bring it into the room with Harol. We're going to leave that unconscious guard in this room. We're going to put the key in the door. We're going to snap the key off in the door so it can't be opened easily. Kind of jam the lock. That's our plan. So whenever this guard wakes up, because we have no idea when they're going to wake up and starts screaming off the top of their lungs for help, that maybe at least they won't be able to easily get out of the room. And we've still got to keep an eye out for the peddler, because obviously the peddler, second time this person's shown up with weird stuff going on. First was the blood for the slaver's affliction, which is why I wanted to kind of perhaps tie it back in with Midnight Lilac. That would have brought those two things together pretty quickly, but rolls didn't happen. So instead, let's go to Arias's office. All right, so I'm just gonna give them. Yeah, I guess it's a strength check to try to just snap the key off in the lock. I think the DC for that's probably really, really low. But let's check it out anyways. I'll take that natural 20. I'll take it. I'm not too proud. So yeah, almost with the sort of like the practice ease that Lia has perhaps done this before, which is very strange. I think Omer's a little like, what? Why do you know how to do this? Shut up, Omer. So yeah, they move the guard in there. They drop him next to Harol. Oh, thanks for the sub. So yeah, they drag this unconscious guard in there with the dead body covered in mold in his office, in Harol's office. They close the door behind them. They snap the key off in the door, so when that guard wakes up screaming bloody murder, they'll maybe have a few minutes, and they're gonna run off. No, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks for the sub. Perfectly understandable. And so yeah, they're gonna snap off the key, and they are gonna head to Arias's office. So perfect. So now we need to know: is anybody going to pick us up a? Is anybody going to come across us now? We're kind of running thin on our disguises. Okay, no. So nobody runs across us while we're going to Arise. Yes, follow. Sorry, my bad. Follow, not a sub. So, alright, so we're going to hoof it over to Arias's office. And again, we've got this key ring, a giant key ring full of keys, and that's the only thing that we have. Now, is there a potential that we can find maybe some other cloaks? Because the longer we wear these faculty cloaks, the more likely it is that we're going to get clocked. Even in the middle of the night. Because they're already looking for us. Because of the ring that we stole. So let's just roll that. I think it's pretty unlikely. I'm going to say a -3 on this roll. Yeah, okay. That's a no. So we don't come across anything that would work as maybe a shift in disguises that would kind of help us along. All right, but we get to Arias's office, and we are going... Now, I'm going to implement the thing that I should have done last time, which is to give us a +1 on the D6 roll every time that we try keys. So... No. Alright, so now this one's with the +1. Okay, nope. Now with the +2. Okay. Alright, so there's 2 potential as we're trying keys in Arias's door, and of course, we are going to have... So, is it more guards? I think that's probably likely, that there's more guards that are coming. Yeah, it's definitely more guards. 1 or 2? Alright, if it's 1 through 3, it's 1. 4 through 6, it's 2. Alright, so 2 guards. Man, they're not really going to want to fight. Both of them are at 1 HP. So yeah, they're sitting here. Again, it's dark. They're in this conservatory. They're in this sort of university hallway. They're trying to get into vice chair, department chairs, Arias's office. So they're trying keys. Omer's holding the candle next to Lia. She's trying the keys one after another on this big key ring that they got from the custodial closet. And as they're doing that, 2 cards kind of come around the corner. Like, hey, what are you doing? All right. Now, last time fast talking didn't work. We're going to try to fast talk again. Well, we definitely don't want to fight. So we're kind of at the point where either we're going to have to fast talk or we're going to have to run. So let's try to fast talk first. And if not, then I guess we'll run. Now, both of them know the conservatory because they both worked here. So they know it very well. They know it as well as the guards probably do, if not better. Especially Lia. Lia worked here for 10 years. So, as a high elf, she's got a pretty long lifespan. So she worked here for a while. So she's very familiar with the grounds and probably different hidey holes and places that they can maybe slink off to. And Omer also is familiar, though probably not quite as familiar as Lia is. But they're going to try to fast talk first. So, we get a +2 to this roll. for a deception check. Yep, that's one too many. I guess it didn't really help us anyways. So it's a 16 either way. Let's find out what the DC is. All right, so 10 plus 16. All right, so yes, we talk them. So we kind of take them immediately kind of off the alerted subject, but we're still not fully out of the clear, in the clear. So they're going to approach, but they seem talkative. And I think we're going to try to do another deception check. We're going to try to be like, oh, you know, the vice chair said that we could pick something up from his office. And, you know, we got the keys from the custodian, from the janitor, and, you know, you just can't find the right key. So I think that's what they're going to try to double down on their deception here. Okay, natural 20. That's what I like to see. All right, so we're in a good spot. 22. Now, they could still fail it, but it's pretty unlikely. Close. That's an 18 for a DC. All right, so they do, and they get to talking. Now, the question is do the guards probably check these rooms too? Can they show us which key is which? Yes. Okay. And like pick up the key ring, and they're like, here's the key you're looking for. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thanks. Oh yeah, no problem. I think they stick it in the office door, and I don't think the guards. I think the guards are going to stand there for a minute. I don't think they're immediately going to leave, just to make sure they can get in the room or whatever. Trying to be courteous, even though that Lia and Omer would really like it more if they just kind of left, kind of got out of here. But they're not leaving. So they click it, they open it up. Is anybody inside? I think it's unlikely again. Somebody would have come out. Actually, I think it's highly unlikely because. Is it highly unlikely or just unlikely? I would say it would be highly unlikely, but because of what happened with Harol, I think I'm just going to make it unlikely, because there could be like another dead body in here. Because we haven't heard from Arias in a while. And we've been trying to contact him. So -3. Alright, well. There is somebody in this room. Is it Arias? No. Interesting. So somebody's... Now, it is Arias' office. We did confirm. It's still his name on the nameplate. The guards didn't say anything weird to us when we said that we were needing to get something from Arias. However, it is going to be very weird that we open the door and there's already somebody in there. So it was very clear that we didn't knock. Why would we? We weren't expecting anybody in there. Is this somebody who should be in the office? Let's ask that. I think that's highly unlikely. Because I think if it was somebody who was supposed to be in the office and you heard somebody trying to open the door and struggling with it, you would probably go over and try to help them open it. All right, it's a 13, so it is somebody who's supposed to be in here. Does Arias have a secretary? That's good. That's a good question. I think that's probably pretty likely. So +3. All right, yeah. All right, so I think it's Arias' secretary, who, for whatever reason, didn't open the door. But I think that is going to put them in a weird position because the lie that they told the guards was that Arias had told them to go get something, that they could go get something from his office, but then they got keys because they didn't know. It is also the middle of the night. So I think that they're going to try to play that off. Be like, oh, you didn't know anybody was in here. Why didn't you answer the door? And kind of go on the offensive on the secretary immediately. So get a deception in there. Okay, again, pretty good roll. That's 20. Getting all that help. It helps to have a second character with you who can keep, like, spamming the help action with you to kind of give Lia the ability to actually make some of these rolls, which she needs to. All right, so let's do the DC. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so they absolutely nuked that DC, which was a 4. So I think that immediately puts the secretary on their back, sort of foot, just sort of on their heel, like, but what? That's not supposed to be anybody coming to see. And then guard's like, yeah, why didn't you answer the door? And I think it kind of smooths itself out really quickly, and I think the guards just kind of screw off after that point. So the question is where's Arias? And that's immediately what they're going to ask the secretary. Where is Arias? Does the secretary know where Arias is? Well, I guess they're going to try to persuade her to tell them. Oh, I guess that's... that would really change the outcome. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that wouldn't change it. Because there's a chance that the secretary could clock them for who they are. Which I hadn't considered. So I think they're going to try to... Alright, so let's just ask the question first. Does the secretary know who they are? Yes. Okay. But didn't say anything to the guards. So I think the door kind of closes, and they're like, do you know where Arias is? We've been trying to message him. So, and there's not a role there. Obviously, this person's... Well, we don't know that they're sympathetic. We just know that they didn't turn us in. And I think this is going to be... Just going to roll an insight for them to see how cagey this person is with their answers. I only have a +1. Or, sorry, actually I have a -1. Okay, so an 18. Okay. So as they're talking to the secretary, does the secretary seem kind of cagey, like kind of obfuscating, kind of dancing around things? Yeah, absolutely. Being extremely cagey. So clearly not answering them in a very direct manner when they ask about, like, where's Arias? We've been trying to message Arias. We really needed Arias' help. Did you get the messages? Did Arias get the messages? What's going on? And the secretaries kind of danced around with their answers. And they'd be like, oh, messages. We get a lot of messages. I mean, you would have to be more specific. I don't know. So I think that this is going to move from sort of a persuasion into an intimidate. Because they're kind of at their wits' end, the Rice, and they're running out of time. This is really the last thing they need to do in the conservatory before they get out of here. And they don't have a lot of time to do it. So, yeah, we're just going to roll an intimidation. Not bad. That's just a straight up 20. Will that pass the DC? Yes, absolutely. It's a DC of 10. Alright, so yeah, and so they intimidate. It's like, look, where's Arias? I think they kind of get, kind of up in the secretary's grill. Kind of pushing the secretary around. Getting a little bit physical, even though both of them look like, well, do they look hurt? I mean, probably they got attacked by mold, so I highly doubt that they look particularly hurt, even though they are very hurt. But I think most of that's going to be sort of like an internal respiratory kind of thing because of the mold. All right, so the question is does the secretary even know where Rice is? I think that's 50-50. Yes. Is the secretary going to tell them where Rice is? Yes. Okay. So now we're just kind of going down the list trying to figure it out. So I don't really want to do an interrupt scene at this point. I'll probably make 1 or 2 more rolls, and then we're going to roll for potentially for another random encounter, because now they're spending more time here. They're raising their voices. They're talking to people. So, is he in Carjuntan? Is he in the city? Yes. Perfect. Okay. And I think that they would just get what district he's in. This first one. District 6. Alright, so he's in the merchant residences. For whatever reason. Can she give them the specific address? Yes. Okay. Alright. So yeah, they've got the specific address for Arias. They're not getting really any other information out of it. It seems like Arias is holed up somewhere else other than the Conservatory right now, Riverside Conservatory. Why? We're not really sure. And I'm thinking that's probably all the information we're going to get out of the secretary at this point. Again, kind of on a cramped schedule. They really need to get out of here. They spend enough time here. The longer they spend here, the more likely they are to get caught. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and make a roll for that. Alright. So we've had some guard encounters now. So this is going to be an encounter. I want to know, has the other guard woken up? The one that we left at Harol's? Yes. Okay. So that guard woke up, started screaming bloody murder. Now there are probably guards running all over the place. There are also people who are looking for the ring that they stole. So is this people looking for the ring they stole? No. Okay, so it's guards. Which means there's probably quite a few guards. I'd say probably one. I think if it's low, it's going to be 2 guards. If it's high, it's going to be. I'll just roll a D3 plus 2. I'll make it easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So 5 guards. You hear them sort of charging down the hallway in their direction. All right. So we probably got like 1 action before these guards bust in here. What are they going to do? All right. First question I want to answer: are there any other cloaks in this room? Are there cloaks that they can switch into? No. All right. Is there a window that they can get out of? Yes. Okay. So there is a window they can get out of. Now the question is what floor are they on? I assume the conservatory is maybe at a max of 4 floors? And they're apparently on the top floor. Is there a balcony? Yes. Okay. So it means there's quite a bit of a balcony. So I think they are going to. I think with that, the extra success of that 20 is going to be. They're going to get some help from the secretary, and they're going to hide on the balcony for as guards before the guards can get in here. So they're gonna do some stealth checks, and I'll just do a stealth check for Lia, and that'll suffice for Omer as well. And give her advantage because they now have the secretary helping them. Okay, 17 plus just 2, just 1. So 18. Uh-oh. That's not good. Yeah, that's 25. So yeah, the secretary tries to block them as these guards kind of follow in the room and like looking for him. And we heard that there were people in here, and the secretary's like, "Oh yeah, Ian, they were in here just a second ago. The other guards let them in." And I'm gonna guess she tries to use that line, but part of the guards that are there are the guards that help them get in, so they know that they're in this room or were in this room. And I think that they're like, "Oh, well, it looks like the balcony door is open." the door to the balcony, like the French door to the balcony's open. They're like, oh crap. So if it's a standard building and there's a balcony on this floor, that means there's probably a balcony there's going to be a balcony on the floor below. So they're going to try to drop down to that. I think they know the jig is up, and oof, they each have 1 hit point. What are they going to do? Oof, what are they going to do? Yeah, I think they're going to try to jump down. I think Lia's going to take her healing potion. She has a healing potion. I think she's going to use that healing potion. I think she has to, if she wants any chance of surviving that fall. Which is going to give her 2d4 plus 2 hit points back. Oop, that's 3. 5, 6, 7. Alright, so that'll get her all the way back up to health. So she's at full hit points. Omer, however, is still at 1 hit point, so he could just KO himself if he really screws this up. Kind of going down. Because again, when they were breaking in, I said that they weren't bringing their gear with them because that would look super suspicious with them. They have to sort of blend in as students and faculty, which means not carrying around a gigantic 50-pound backpack full of adventuring gear. So they're going to hop down. All right, which I think is just going to be a straight-up athletics check. I'm going to guess that they can help each other. Because I feel like Omer can hold out his hands and they can kind of drop Lia, and then Lia can then kind of hold Omer's feet as he tries to climb down. It's very slow though. So let's go ahead and roll initiative. I feel like. So we know the guards go on 11. All right, Lia's gonna go first. Omer's gonna go after the guards. So yeah, Lia's gonna hop down. Athletics check. That's a 13. Hopefully that's good enough that she doesn't take damage. Oh, it's not. So she's gonna take some damage. Yeah, so she's gonna go down to 4 hit points. So half hit points. So she kind of falls with a clatter onto the balcony below. It's certainly not graceful. And then I think the guards are gonna charge. And try to... Now, the question is do they try to subdue Omer, or do they try to knock Omer out? I think that they would try to subdue him. Probably. They've got the numbers. I think they'll try to subdue him. And I think that's... I'm just going to make that a dexterity check, or dexterity save on his part, to stay out of it. That's pretty good. That's a 17. Now... This is still an urban area, so I'm assuming the balcony is probably quite small and cramped. So they probably can't bring to bear all of the guards at once. And they're probably halfway getting into each other's ways. But he is able to make the DC, so they kind of come at him and they're kind of bumping over each other, and he's kind of scrambling over the railing and kind of drops down. So let's see if he drops down. Alright. 12. That's not great. Nope. Alright. No, he didn't make that. So he's going to take at least 1 point of damage. So he's going to be KO'd. So he kind of calms down and he's going to sort of jump down. Leah's trying to hold on to him. And now the question is does he land on the balcony or does he just straight up fall? If he straight up falls, that's going to do more damage. Now Leah is trying to help him. I think I'm just going to be... This is going to be a flat save. Leah is trying to help him, so he'll have advantage on it, but he just needs to roll an 11 or better to just basically make it onto the balcony rather than fall 4 stories. Okay. Barely. But Omer is alive, if wildly unconscious, and now Leah has no way to help him. Well, that put us in a bit of a pickle. That has us in a bit of a pickle. And I feel like that's going to be where we're going to end the session. Right at this sort of point where we try to figure out how the heck to get out of here. It's not great. It's not a great situation. But we'll have to figure out what happens with them next Thursday. But that's going to be it for me tonight. So it was a really good session. We found out quite a bit. We have more clues and more questions than we did previously. So I got a lot of questions about what's going on here. And it's going to be really, really interesting to sort of figure it out. But to do that, we're going to have to get out of this. We're going to have to first get out of here, which in itself is already going to be a pain in the butt. Especially because we have now Omer, who is unconscious. And unfortunately, Lia spent her one healing potion on herself, which she needed. As the main character, it is her prerogative. We like Omer. We don't want Omer to waltz out of the story, but that's how sidekicks go. So there is a chance. There's probably a pretty good chance that Omer won't make it through the next session. But we're gonna have to figure that out next time. But for this time, that's gonna be it. Thanks for coming along with me, guys. This is gonna be a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun next time. There's gonna be sort of a mad dash trying to get out of here, out of the conservatory, and we'll have to see what happens then. So if you liked everything, give it a follow. You can find out if you want to catch up with everything we've done. Like I said, this is session 12. Into session 12. So if you want to catch up on all the sessions as to how we got to this point and learned about Harol and got to Riverside Conservatory and Carjunta and all that fun stuff, you can check it out on YouTube. All that stuff's down below. Red Ragged Fiend. You can also check out the blog where we do lots of D&D stuff. I've been writing D&D content for many years. Suffice it to say, since before 5th edition D&D came out, so it's been a while. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good stuff there for both players, and if you're a dungeon master or game master of a different TTRPG, another tabletop RPG, it's also plenty of stuff over there for you. Because we don't just do D&D 5e here. I've played a lot of different RPGs, run a lot of different RPGs. It's just our focus primarily for this solo RPG is 5th edition, but that's not the only thing I play or run. And it's not the only thing I want to play or run. It's just what we're doing right now. So if you guys like more of that content, check out that stuff. I also have Pay What You Want stuff on DriveThruRPG if you want to find out some resources for that. If you want to use some of the resources that I use for this game and other stuff, you can always check those out. They're all Pay What You Want, so you can download them for free. If you want to throw me a few dollars, that's fine. It's up to you. Try it before you buy. I respect it. But that's going to be it for me. And I will see you guys. I think I'm going to probably stream sometime this weekend. I'm not sure when, but I'm thinking I may stream again sometime this weekend. It won't be the solo RPG. I'll be doing something else, though it'll probably be D&D related. But we'll definitely pick this up next Thursday. That is the plan. And we'll figure out how the heck they're going to get out of Riverside Conservatory, if they're going to get out of Riverside Conservatory, or if something even worse is going to happen to them than the community service they already have that they're breaking. That's going to be it for me. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.